Time, funny little thing, isn't it? Slips right through your fingers like sand at a funeral. One day you're chasing dreams with fire in your chest, and the next you're staring at the pieces of what used to be your life. Broken dreams, shattered plans, years you can't get back. People like to pretend they're in control, like they're the masters of their destiny, but when it all falls apart, oh, they get quiet. Real quiet. That silence, it's not peace, it's defeat. The sweet scent of nostalgia mixed with a dash of desperation. Now that's a cocktail most people sip every night before bed, isn't it? Holding on to memories like they're relics from a golden age that never really existed. If only I could go back, they whisper into the ceiling, waiting for a reply that never comes. But here's the joke. They're worshiping the past like it's a god, kneeling before a broken clock, hoping it'll tell them the future. Tragic, poetic, and a little pathetic. You see, people fall in love with what used to be. They polish old memories till they shine so bright they go blind to what's in front of them. They cling to old photos, old routines, old versions of themselves, as if the past holds the only blueprint to happiness, idolizing the was like it's sacred scripture, ignoring the present like it's a curse. It's not even about the pain of loss anymore. No. It's about the comfort of familiarity, even if that comfort is laced with misery. It's easier to ache for the past than to face the uncertainty of becoming someone new. They build shrines in their minds, candles flickering at the altar of regret. Prayers go up not to move forward, but to rewind. And oh, how they beg for the old spark, the old fire, the old love, the old dream. As if that dream wasn't the very thing that broke them in the first place. They don't want restoration, not really. They want a replica. A safe, controlled replica of a time when things made sense, or at least felt like they did. But here's where the illusion crumbles. That old dream, that old version of life they're chasing, it's dust. It's gone, not buried, not hidden, gone. And holding on to it doesn't resurrect it. It only keeps them chained to a ghost. Like dancing with a shadow and wondering why it never holds you back. The more they chase it, the more it laughs and slips further away, because it knows something they don't. Resurrection doesn't look like repetition. It looks like transformation. But people don't like transformation. It's messy, ugly, it burns. You've got to let things die. You've got to bleed a little, maybe a lot. You've got to walk into the fire and trust that on the other side, something will still be standing. Not the same thing, not the old thing, but something better, stronger, realer. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Giving up what you knew for a promise that hasn't even shown up yet. Jumping without seeing the net. That's why most don't do it. That's why they stay frozen. Not because they don't want better, but because they can't stop worshiping what used to be. Because somewhere along the way, they made the past their prison. And when freedom knocks, they slam the door shut. Can't risk it, can't let go. So they shrink, they settle, they survive. But restoration, real restoration, it doesn't come to the idolizer, it comes to the surrenderer. The one who throws the past in the fire and says, all right, show me something new. Not because they're fearless, but because they're tired of being afraid. Because even a broken future is better than a polished lie. because they finally see that what was isn't sacred. It was just a chapter. And this story, oh, it's not done. Not by a long shot. But it sure as hell won't start again if they're still busy reading the last page over and over, pretending the book ended there. Ah, broken dreams, the shattered glass of ambition, glittering under the weight of failure. People step over their own pieces every day and still wonder why their feet bleed. They call it bad luck, bad timing, bad choices. But they never say the truth out loud, do they? That maybe, just maybe, the dream they were chasing wasn't built to last. That maybe it had cracks from the start. But hey, it's easier to blame the world than to admit you were holding on to a fantasy stitched together with duct tape and desperation. Now here's the real punchline. They think it's over. They look at the ruins of what they once believed in and assume that's the end of the show. Curtain call, lights off, everybody go home. They sit in the ashes and call it home. Oh, but what they don't know is that the fire doesn't just destroy, it refines, it purifies. The dream didn't die, it evolved, grew teeth, grew a backbone. It stopped smiling politely and started baring its fangs. That's the version they're scared of, the one that demands something more than wishful thinking, the one that asks you to bleed for it. See, people love soft dreams, the kind that pat you on the back and tuck you in at night. But strong dreams? Oh no, those are wild animals. They drag you through hell, claw at your ego, rip away your illusions, and most folks tap out before they even get started. Because the price is too high. They want the crown without the crucifixion. They want the glory without the grind. But you don't get to resurrection without a little death, do you? Now, here's the twist. The thing they thought was their dream, that was just the decoy, the test, the trailer before the real film started. The dream wasn't broken. It was exposed, pulled apart so it could be rebuilt with better bones. But that rebuilding, it hurts. It's not a makeover, it's surgery. It's staring at what you used to want and realizing it's not enough anymore. It's letting the shallow version of success die so a deeper version can rise. But most people, they don't make it that far. They throw in the towel at the first sign of pain. They don't realize that pain is the compass, the red flag, the signpost saying, this way, right here, keep going. But instead, they turn around, run back to comfort, back to the lie, back to the tiny dream that didn't ask too many questions, and then they wonder why nothing ever changes, why life feels like a rerun of a bad sitcom they can't stop watching. But the ones who get it, the ones who keep walking through the fire, they stop needing the old dream. They stop needing applause. They stop needing permission. Because now they're building something that can't be stolen. Something no one gave them, so no one can take it away. Their dream becomes a fortress, not a fairy tale. It has scars, it has bloodstains, and it stands anyway. Because it's real. Finally, real. And maybe that's the secret no one wants to hear, that broken dreams aren't trash to be thrown out. They're blueprints, maps, lessons wrapped in pain. You don't lose when your dream breaks. You lose when you stop digging through the rubble. Because buried underneath that wreckage is a version of yourself you haven't even met yet. The version that doesn't flinch, the version that doesn't beg. The version that builds without needing anyone to believe in them first. That's the version the world is scared of, not the broken you, not the dreaming you, the reborn you, the one who knows how to fail without folding, the one who doesn't need hope to keep going, the one who turns every shattered dream into a sharpened weapon. That version? That's the threat, not to the world, but to the lie. The lie that said your dream was over just because it didn't come wrapped in gold. The lie that said strength only comes from success. The lie that told you you're done when really you're just getting started. Time, ticky-tock. They say it heals all wounds. What a joke. Time doesn't heal. It buries. It distracts. It sweeps the mess under the rug and then laughs while you trip over it years later. The lost years, the ones that vanished while you were trying to survive. They don't come back with a bow on top. There's no magic rewind button. And yet, somehow, there's this whisper in the madness, this divine smirk behind the chaos that says, I can still use that, as if nothing was wasted. As if even the pain has a purpose. Isn't that hilarious? You look back at those years, you know the ones. The years you gave to people who didn't see you. The years you spent living someone else's script. The years you played it safe and small and silent. The years the dream was on mute and you want to scream. Because now you see it, now you're awake. And the tragedy is, it's too late, right? Or so they want you to think. Because here's the trick. It's never about the time you lost. It's about who you became in the fire. It's not the calendar that defines you, it's the crucible. And while you were busy counting losses, someone was counting lessons. Every betrayal, every delay, every tear. They were currency, deposits. And now comes the withdrawal. Now comes the part where all that pain cashes out into power. But only if you're twisted enough to believe it can. Only if you stop waiting for the past to apologize and start robbing it blind of everything it owes you. You ever see someone snap? Not the dangerous kind of snap, the divine kind. The moment they stop asking, why did this happen? And start saying, watch what I do with it. That's when it shifts. That's when the broken dream becomes a blueprint for something bigger. Not a comeback, oh no. Comebacks are too polite. What we're talking about is a resurrection. It's the kind of transformation that doesn't beg for validation. It stares down heaven and hell and says, move. I've got work to do. But of course, the world doesn't like that kind of transformation. It prefers you broken, bitter, quiet. Because when you realize your lost years didn't destroy you, they trained you, now that's terrifying. Now you're no longer operating from fear. Now you're operating from clarity. From rage, sure, but the righteous kind. The kind that doesn't scream, it builds. The kind that stops looking for justice and starts becoming it. They'll try to remind you what you lost. The relationships, the youth, the opportunities, the dreams that never left the drawing board. They'll say, you could have been so much further by now. And you'll smile, won't you? Because they don't get it. They never saw what was growing underground. They didn't hear the silent prayers, the war cries disguised as sobs. They didn't see the roots twisting deep beneath the surface while everyone else was busy blooming for the Now it's your turn, but you don't need to bloom the way they did. You're not interested in surface-level success. You're coming for the kind of growth that cracks foundations, that shakes systems, that rattles the cages you used to call home. And what fueled it? The years they said were wasted. The time they mocked, the silence they mistook for surrender. What they forget is that God doesn't recycle. He resurrects. He doesn't just hand back what you lost. He reinvents it, twists it into something stronger, stranger, more you than anything you could have imagined back when you were still trying to be acceptable, respectable, safe. But now you know too much. You've seen behind the curtain, and once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. You stop chasing old timelines and start commanding new ones. You stop begging time to forgive you and start using it like a weapon. Every second becomes a seed. Every breath becomes a signal. Because if God restores lost years, He doesn't do it quietly. He does it in ways that make people uncomfortable, in ways that rewrite the rules, in ways that prove you don't need a clean record to start again. You need the audacity to believe that broken doesn't mean buried, and late doesn't mean done, and shattered doesn't mean useless. It just means the real story hasn't even started yet. They all love a pretty beginning, don't they? The fresh start, the blank slate, the clean hands and clean hearts. But what about when the story's already been ripped apart? What about when the pages are soaked in regret and the ink is your own blood? Nobody claps for that. Nobody cheers for the person dragging their soul back from the gutter. That's not glamorous. That's not marketable. But you see, that's where the real show begins. That's where it gets interesting. Because when everything's broken and you're still breathing, oh, now that's power. You can smell it in the air, can't you? The way people look at you like you should have stayed down, like you should have stayed broken. They don't expect you to rise, they expect you to rot. They expect the dream to stay dead and buried beneath the rubble of disappointment and failure and shame. But here you are, brushing dust off your shoulders with hands that used to tremble. Hands that now build. Hands that no longer ask for permission. That's the thing about dreams. They don't die. They hide. They wait. They crouch in the shadows, snarling, daring you to try again. And when you do, the world doesn't know what to do with you. Because you're not naive anymore. You're not desperate. You're dangerous. You're the kind of person who's seen the end and still showed up. You've stood in the graveyard of your own hopes and had the nerve to dig them back up with nothing but raw faith and stubborn fire. You've walked through the wreckage, found the fragments of who you used to be, and stitched them together into something entirely unrecognizable, something holy, something unkillable. People talk about restoration like it's cute, like it's neat, like God hands you back your little box of dreams with a bow on top. No, He doesn't give it back the way you lost it. He gives it back upgraded, enhanced, weaponized. He takes your tears and turns them into thunder. He takes your silence and turns it into strategy. He takes your heartbreak and turns it into a heartbeat that refuses to quit. But you've got to be twisted enough to believe that kind of magic exists. Twisted enough to look at the ashes and say, yep, I can work with this. And don't think for a second the enemy won't panic. Oh, he will, because you're not coming back as a victim. You're not coming back apologizing for the time it took. You're coming back with scars that talk louder than anyone's approval ever could. You're coming back with eyes that seen too much, a soul that's been rewired, and a mouth that speaks fire. And that kind of comeback, It terrifies people. It confuses them because they don't understand how someone can lose everything and still decide they're not done yet. But that's what happens when restoration isn't just recovery, it's rebellion. It's saying, no, you don't get to write the ending, I do. It's refusing to let grief be the final word. It's turning every delay into a declaration. It's the divine middle finger to every voice that said you peaked back there, that your best was behind you, that your chance came and went, that God forgot you. Forgot you? No, darling, he was just prepping the spotlight. He was just waiting for the silence to get thick enough, the stage dark enough, so your re-entry would feel like a thunderclap. You weren't being punished. You were being prepped. Every no was sharpening your yes. Every detour was rerouting your destiny with more flair. Every heartbreak was hollowing you out so something bigger could fit inside. You had to break to make room for what's next. But people don't like hearing that. They like their blessings soft and sweet. You got the kind that bites back. The kind that doesn't say, I'm sorry for what I went through. It says, you're welcome for what I became, and now you carry it, don't you? That quiet roar, that echo of something wild beneath your ribs. You smile, but it's crooked. You speak, but every word is laced with history. You move through the world like someone who's danced with darkness and lived to hum the tune. You don't flinch anymore. You don't ask for the light. You are the light. Not the soft kind, the kind that doesn't wait to be invited in. It kicks the door down and says, I'm back. You ever watch a person who's just tired? Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, no. I'm talking about the kind of tired that lives in your bones, in your smile, in your prayers. The kind of tired that comes from chasing something for years only to find the door locked every time you knock. They don't scream anymore. They don't cry the same way. They just sit in silence nodding at life. Like, yeah, I expected that. That's what happens when dreams collapse over and over and no one claps for the rebuilding. But here's the twist. It's in that silence, that numb, cursed silence, that God starts doing the real work. Oh, not the flashy kind, the surgical kind. Because restoration isn't loud, it's not a concert, it's not fireworks. It's slow, painfully slow, it's cruel even. Like taking apart a bomb, one wire at a time, knowing any wrong move could blow you up all over again. And you've been blown up before, haven't you? You know the smell of smoke. You know the taste of bitter prayers. You know what it's like to hold on to faith with bloodied hands and call it worship. That's not weakness. That's a different kind of worship. The kind that hell respects. The kind that heaven watches in silence. Because even the angels don't know how you're still standing. People think God only moves in blessings, in breakthroughs, in hallelujahs and happy endings. But sometimes he moves in breakdowns, in stutters, in shattered glass and sleepless nights. He moves in the quiet pulling apart of the old you. The one who thought she needed their approval. The one who thought he had to earn love. The one who kept trading pieces of their soul for temporary applause. He rips that version out limb by limb, and it hurts. But you survive, not because you're strong, but because you ran out of ways to quit. You see, restoration doesn't ask for your permission. It shows up like a thief in the night, robbing you of every excuse you use to wear like armor. And when it's done with you, you look in the mirror and don't even recognize the reflection. Not because you're fake, but because you finally see who you were before the pain taught you to shrink. You see the version of you that never bowed to fear, never surrendered to shame, never made homes in places you were only supposed to pass through. That version, oh, she's dangerous. He's fireproof. And now you get to be that. But there's a catch, of course. There's always a catch. Restoration makes you look like a liar, because you'll smile when you're still bleeding. You'll praise while you're still limping. You'll believe when nothing makes sense, and people, they won't get it. They'll say you're faking. They'll say you're unstable. But what they're really saying is, you're not who you used to be, and that scares me. Good. Let it scare them. Let it shake them. Because restoration didn't just fix what was broken, it rewired what was normal for you. You used to expect disappointment. Now you expect miracles. You used to shrink for comfort. Now you stand in chaos. You used to beg. Now you declare. But here's the funny part. The restoration isn't even for you, not really. It's for every person who's watching you quietly, the ones who've been told their story is over, the ones who gave up and never told anyone, the ones still living in the in-between where hope feels like a scam and peace is just something people pretend to have online. You're the proof they need, the walking contradiction, the living parable. The person who should have lost their mind but somehow came back with vision. The person who walked through hell and came out carrying blueprints for heaven. And don't think for a second that God isn't using all of it. The ugly parts, the awkward phases, the nights you cussed at him and the mornings you begged him to talk back. The fake smiles, the real tears, the moments you were one thought away from disappearing completely. Every shattered version of you has a role to play in this twisted little redemption symphony. Nothing is wasted. Not a second, not a scar, not a sigh. It all goes in the file. It all gets recycled into something holy. Something that looks nothing like what hurt you and everything like what heals others. You don't get to choose how it ends, but you do get to decide how loud your comeback echoes. And make no mistake, it will echo through families, through bloodlines, through time itself. Because a restored person isn't just someone who healed. They're someone who knows what they're capable of when they've got nothing left but faith and fury